Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum students. Today we are going to do different types of sentences and our focus will be on the complex sentence. So let's start. As you can see over here, we have different types of the three types of sentences. The first one is a simple sentence. And how do you identify a simple sentence? A simple sentence has the most basic elements, and that is a subject and a verb. Look at the example over here. We have Joe waited for the train. Now Joe is our subject and waited is our verb. Now in the compound sentence, we have two independent clauses, and these independent clauses are connected with what? They are connected with coordinating conjunctions. Now these coordinating conjunctions are very easy to remember. How can you remember these coordinating conjunctions? Just look at this word fan boys, and you are going to learn according to when you learn this fan boys, you can easily understand, okay, the sentence in front of you is whether it is a compound sentence or not. How? Look at this. F stands for, A for and, N for no, B for but, O for yet, and S for so. So these words have been combined to make a certain word, fanboys, that it's an indicator which will show you that these are the coordinating conjunctions used in a compound sentence. Now one more thing that you should know about a compound sentence is that a compound sentence has two independent clauses, and these two independent clauses are joined with two indicators. Now the first indicator is your comma and the second indicator is your but. So you have two indicators over here, and these are again the comma and but. Uh, the comma and the coordinating conjunction. So these are the two indicators that it shows you, okay, this is a compound sentence. If you look at the example over here, Joe waited for the train and the train was late. Now what are these? The Joe waited for the train is again an independent clause, and the train was late is also an independent clause. Both these independent clauses are joined with a conjunction and a comma. So this is a very important point, that if you see this in a sentence, you can easily indicate that this is a compound sentence. Now we move further to our complex sentence. And what is a complex sentence? A complex sentence is made up of an independent clause and one or more dependent clauses connected to it. A dependent clause is similar to the independent clause or a complete sentence, but it lacks one of the element that would make it a complete sentence. Dependent clause begins with subordinating conjunction. Now this is a very important point, that it starts with a subordinating conjunction, and that tells you that it is a complex sentence. Now what are our subordinating conjunctions over here? We have after, although, as, because, etc. Now there are others, and that I will show you in when we move further. So here we are. We have to look at the sentence types once again so you can understand it better. We have a simple sentence over here. Sam washed his face. This is a very simple sentence. We have a subject over here and a verb. The second sentence is a complex sentence, and it has two independent clauses. The first one is Sam washed his face, and the second one is that he combed his hair. Now these two independent clauses are joined with a comma and a coordinating conjunctions over here, and it shows that this is a compound sentence. Then the last one is a complex sentence. In a complex sentence, if you look closely, we have Sam got dressed because it was time for school. Now over here, the indicator because shows us that it is a complex sentence, because we have we have two clauses over here. The first one is Sam got dressed. Now this one is an independent clause, but the second one, because it was time to go to school, is not an independent clause. It is a dependent clause because it has the key element, and that key element is because. It shows us that because it was time to school. So this sentence is incomplete, and it needs an independent clause to be attached with it in order to make a complete sense. So this makes it a complex sentence. Now, if you look closely, we have a complex sentence is written in two ways. You can either bring the subordinating conjunction in the beginning, or you can write it in the middle. If you're writing it in the beginning, so we are going to have while Sam washed his face, we listened to the music. Now over here you're going to put a comma while when you end the first clause, that is the dependent clause, and we listened to the music is your independent clause over here. So when if you look at the second sentence, we have we listened to the music while Sam washed his face. Over here, while Sam washed his face is a dependent clause, and we listened to the music is your independent clause. So these are the two ways in which you can write a complex sentence, and when you are using the coordinating the subordinating conjunctions in the beginning. So here you can understand that when this subordinating conjunction comes in the beginning, you're going to put a comma and then start the independent clause. And if this subordinating conjunction comes in the center, then you do not need a comma over here. Look at the another example. Jeff ate an apple when he got home from work. When Jeff got home from work, comma, he ate an apple. Both these sentences again indicate okay, when you put a subordinating conjunction in the beginning, you're gonna put a comma at the end of this first clause, and in the above sentence, while it's when is in the center, you don't need a comma. Here's another sentence. After I graduated from college, I started working. I started working after I graduated from the college. So again, the same indicator, a complex sentence has a subordinating conjunction and a comma if the subordinating conjunction is coming in the beginning, and if it's coming in the center, you don't need a comma. So all these sentences are the examples of complex sentences. Now we have to understand what is a dependent clause. So dependent clause, look at the sentence again. While Sam washed his face, we listened to the music. Now in this sentence, till now I think you can easily indicate what is a dependent clause. A dependent clause is when we have the subordinating conjunction in a sentence, that is a dependent clause, and the clause that is without a subordinating conjunction is an independent clause. Now look closely over here. While Sam washed his face, now this sentence is your dependent clause. And why is it a dependent clause? Because it has while as a connector. Now this is a while over here is an adverb clause connector, and we call it an adverb clause connector, and along with that we have a subject and a verb in this sentence, and we say okay, while Sam washed his face. Now this sentence this clause is incomplete. Why? Because it needs something and additional information or another clause to be joined with it so that it can make a complete sentence. Now while Sam washed his face, the while over here, the coordinating conjunction, or sorry, the subordinating conjunction over here is the reason that we say okay, this is a dependent clause. Okay. When now look at this another example. When Jeff got home from work, this is again a dependent clause, an example of a dependent clause. And how do you know that? Because of this when. The when indicator over here shows that this is a dependent clause. We have after I graduated, again an example, the sentences that you have done before. Again it is indicating over here that after over here is your showing that this is a dependent clause. Now we have after I is your subject, graduated is your verb, but after is the main indicator which shows that this clause is is a dependent clause over here. Now these are the same sentences again, but the indicators that shows you where you're supposed to put a comma, that is shown in the first sentence, that while Sam washed his face, so the comma comes after face. Then if you look at the second sentence, there is we listened to the music while Sam washed his face. Over here there is no comma required, so that's why there's a cross. Then we have in the next sentence, the highlighted part is your dependent clause, when he got home from work. In the second sentence, when he got home from work, then you have put we have put a comma, so this is your dependent clause. In the last one we have after I graduated from college, this is your dependent clause with a comma at the end. Okay, now we have these adverb clause connectors. Now what is important that you should learn and understand these adverb clause connectors, and these will tell you that this is a complex sentence and these connectors are used in the complex sentences. Here are some of the more adverb clause connectors, and these connectors are not very common. You have not seen these mostly in the writings, but these are used over there. And this rule is the same. If they are used in the center, you're not supposed to put a comma over here. Just like over here, you can see this example. I'll take an umbrella in case it rains. So in case is your adverb connector, and it makes it a complex sentence. In case it rains is your dependent clause over here. And I'll take an umbrella is your independent clause. Now the dependent clause, in case it rains, it does not need a comma over here. Why? Because it is written in the center. It is coming in the middle. Now we have check your understand. Let's check your understanding. Pause the video over here and try to punctuate the following sentences according to that whether it's a you need a comma over here in the complex sentence or whether or not. So you should pause the video now and go through it, and then we're going to do the further exercise. So here we are, and we have these sentences. If you look at the first sentence and check whether you have done it correctly. The first sentence is we worked late because our project wasn't finished. So over here we don't need any comma. In the second one we have even though you are busy, you should eat breakfast. Now even though is your subordinating conjunction, and it is also known as the adverb indicator connector, and over here we have a comma, so you're supposed to use a comma at the end of this dependent clause. Then the next sentence is the meeting will be cancelled if we don't have enough people. So over here if is your connector, and it shows okay, you don't need a comma over here. Mitch is moving to Dallas since he can't find a job. Over here since is your connector, and you don't need a comma over here. Although this book is interesting, now over here they have put a comma, and why? Because you have although, and that comes in the beginning of your dependent clause. So over here this independent clause, as it is coming in the beginning, so you have to put a comma. Before I cook dinner, we need to buy some groceries. And I'll drive us to the concert unless Bob wants to drive. Now, unless is again your adverb connector, and you can also use as call it as a subordinating conjunction. So let's revise, and we have a comma and adverb clause connectors. We call it adverb clause connectors as well. So what have we learned in this lesson today? We have learned that a complex sentence, we use a comma if dependent clause starts a sentence, and don't use a comma if a independent clause starts a sentence. And while you are using doing a complex sentence, you are going to have the adverb clause connectors that I mentioned in the beginning, and according to them, when you learn it, you can easily identify whether it's a complex sentence, a compound sentence, or a simple sentence. I hope you have enjoyed the lesson. Okay, ji, Allah Hafiz.